Hey guys, Lokai here. If you're wondering why the audio is different and why there's more noise in the background, it's because I don't have my headset right now. I thought a little bit about it, and to be honest, so I watched the Pokemon Presents, and after watching it, I gotta be honest here, I don't really have as many thoughts as you might think, but I also still wanted to have it just so I could have it as a nice little end cap. So, most of the recording you heard before this was before the Pokemon Presents happened, and I wanted to get my perspective of things before it, because I kind of wanted to get my opinions on it, like, before, just in case the Presents changed anything, so I could kind of have both perspectives here. It's a new thing I'm trying. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep doing it or not, but, why not? Just for a little difference for one random ramble or rant or whatever. I don't know what I'm gonna call this. So, I watched the Presents, and I gotta be honest here, most of it I didn't really care for, mostly just because it was for a bunch of mobile titles that I don't really play, but, I'm strictly gonna just be talking about the stuff I'm interested in, which is mainly the RPGs, so Pokemon Championship, which is a battle sim, so I'll talk about that for, 1 second, because honestly, they didn't really show much. They showed that they had Mega Raichu. That's pretty cool. I like Mega Raichu. I thought that design was neat. Halucha's in it, and that's pretty cool, too. I gotta be perfectly honest here, though. They really didn't show much. They showed that it was coming out for Switch before mobile, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I'm not angry, because I have a Switch, so, whatever. I gotta be honest here, just to give my thoughts on Pokemon Champions, since I didn't give it in, the first part. I'm honestly kind of mixed on Pokemon Pokemon Champions. I don't know why they didn't call it Championship. I honestly am kind of mixed on Pokemon Champion, or Pokemon Champions, because the fact that it's basically like the Stadium games, except it doesn't have all of the Pokemon. To me, it just kind of defeats the purpose to me. I know they're going to drip feed the Pokemon, I know it's a free-to-play game, I know they gotta continue to have interest in it somewhere, but it's also just I don't know, man, it just seems weird, but, who knows, it's free-to-play, I'll probably still try it, just for the sake of trying to get into the competitive scene at least a little bit, or maybe just to battle with my friends. I hope they have a mode where I'm sure for, World Championships, they'll make it so, you're only allowed to use, specific things. Because the thing with Champions is that you can use Mega Evolution and Terastallizing, and I'm assuming that Z-Crystals and Gigantamaxing is also going to be a thing, as well as, the Primal Reversions, which are basically Mega Evolutions. I'm not sure about Ash Greninja. That would be really cool to have. I know they've been trying to kind of erase Ash Greninja, probably because that was just a placeholder for a potential Mega Greninja for Pokemon Z that just never ended up happening, so the anime kind of had to just do its own thing. And, I really, really hope they bring it back, though, because I like Mega Greninja. I've seen the form. It's cool. I like it, but, I like Ash Greninja, too, and I'd like to see them bring it back, I know some people found it stupid, but, those people can have their opinion. I have mine. They showed off stuff for Legend ZA, the new DLC, and Garchomp has a new Mega Evolution. I hope this one doesn't suck like the previous Mega Evolution for Garchomp did. Mega Garchomp I thought looked cool, but they gutted a part of its speed. Mega Garchomp, for those who don't know, in X and Y, is worse than Garchomp. Its Mega Evolution is just flat out worse, because for some asinine reason I don't really understand, they nerfed its speed stat and redistributed 5 base stat points to another stat. And it's why did you do that? That basically, speed stat is very important for competitive play. That's not to say you can't have Pokemon with low speed stats. Hell, Trick Room. But Garchomp's speed was very important. And Mega Garchomp was slower than Garchomp, so what was the point of using Mega Garchomp when you could just use regular Garchomp? Sure, Garchomp doesn't have as high of attack stats, but Garchomp is still a fucking monster. So, there's no point. So I'm hoping this new Mega form, which admittedly does look cool, and it actually can fly now, so I'm going to assume its ability is Levitate. I hope that, you know, Garchomp, Mega Garchomp is actually decent, and doesn't suck like the original Mega Evolution. Although, if I'm being honest here, they could, if they wanted to, like, alter Mega Garchomp and just give it the same speed as base Garchomp. That would be fine too, if they wanted, like, because they're bringing back Mega Stones for champions. I don't really understand why they couldn't just alter the Mega Garchomp stats. They have altered stats for Pokemon before. Like, you can look it up on Cereeb.net. It is a thing. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened. And, you know, I don't see why they can't do that. You think it'd be easier for Mega Evolutions, because Mega Evolutions haven't been around for a while. So, you know, just, like, give base Mega Garchomp back at speed, and then you can do whatever you want to with this new Garchomp. But whatever, it's still a cool Mega Evolution. Not for nothing, you know, the new Megas for Legend ZA are really cool. I don't really care about Legend ZA, because I hear the game's kind of mediocre. Maybe I'll play it if I can find it for the cheap, and if I feel like playing it. I'm probably not going to play it, if I'm being honest here. I'm probably not going to play it. I'll play Legends Arceus. I'm not going to play Legends ZA, probably not. Probably not for a long time. I'm not really interested. If you're wondering why I'm kind of glossing over the DLC as a whole, though, it's mainly because I don't really care about Legends ZA. I'll be perfectly honest here, like, you know, I have heard that they made the game more polished than previous entries, and I'm hoping that is the standard going forward. But honestly, I hear the game overall is pretty mediocre. It's nothing amazing. I know they changed up the gameplay to make it more of an action RPG. Okay, cool. You know, give Legends a bit more distinction between Arceus and the main series. It just doesn't look very interesting to me. I don't know. I haven't played it. Maybe it's really good, maybe it's really bad, I don't know. I think the new Megas are cool, but I can just wait for champions in order to use them, and they'll have their abilities and everything, so at that point, I don't really care. So, whatever, that's just my opinion. So next up is the last thing I want to talk about, and I probably won't spend too long on this either, to be honest, because it is just a teaser trailer, but it was Pokemon Generation 10. Winds and Water. And I gotta be honest here, it actually does look pretty damn good. You know, I was really hoping that because this was the debut generation for the Switch 2, that they would actually pull out all the stops, but I was very... I don't know. On one hand, I wanted to hope that maybe they got the feedback from Scarlet and Violet, but on another hand, knowing how the Pokemon Company is, I just didn't really have much faith in them. However, it seems that it seems like they did get the memo. For one thing, the game actually looks fairly decent. I mean, it's not the most amazing looker ever. To be honest, I don't even really think it looks much like a Switch 2 game, to be honest. I know that might piss some people off, but to be honest, it really doesn't look much like a Switch 2 game. But the art direction is actually pretty cool. They're actually giving it a little bit more of an art style, and, you know, I didn't see any major technical issues, which, believe me, for a Pokemon, you know, announcement is pretty good, because holy shit, they were, oh my god, Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus, when they were first announced, you could count the amount of Pokemon who were running at low frame rates, that were teleporting all over the place, the fucking pop in. Oh, it was embarrassing. This trailer, as far as I know, doesn't have any of that, and if it does, it's probably somewhere you can't immediately see, which is better, because at least you can't immediately see it. The Pokemon are still reusing their animations, but it seems like the actual models have been updated to fit with the art style, which, you know, is nice. And who knows, they might still update some of the animations. They might just be placeholder. I highly fucking doubt it, but still. For what it's worth, Legends Arceus and Legends ZA and other, you know, future games after Sword and Shield did update some of the animations. And those are the ones they're using for this new game. So maybe it won't be so bad. I understand not every animation for an RPG can look great, especially like in a turn-based system where characters kind of have to jerk forward and such, but you know, I'm just asking for some animation. Like, the problem I have with the animation in Pokemon games is that they're so lifeless. They're so dead most of the time. You know, it feels like some of the models barely even blink. It's why I prefer the 2D sprite art. Not to say that I think they should go back to it, because they won't. They never will. Look, I would love to see a sprite-based Pokemon game again, but let's be frank here, they're not going to do that. Like, I would love to see it for, like, an experimental one-off, like a Legends game, or like a 2.5D remake or something, or kind of similar to Octopath Traveler, or hell, just a sprite-based budget title. But let's be frank here, they went 3D, they're never going to go back. So, at that point, I just want the 3D animations to be decent, you know? But who knows, you know, the animations have gotten a little better, and who knows, you know, they're probably going to be reusing those, and, you know, that's nice and all. But there are probably still going to be some animations that just look meh. Like, Tail Whip literally is not going to be a Tail Whip, it's just going to be a static model that doesn't move at all, just wiggling with a weird wind animation. It just looks terrible. Like, get rid of that. Just have an actual tail wag, okay? Like, you know, just give him a little tail wag. Come on. Is it that hard to do? I don't know. Whatever. But in terms of, like, the actual overworld, in terms of the models for the trainers, in terms of the character models for, you know, the main characters and the Pokemon in the overworld, it looks fairly solid. The game actually looks like it's taking what Scarlet and Violet did and giving it this brand new feature for the game, actual polish. Holy shit. And really, that's like, it seems like they got the message that, okay, yeah, we can't have another disaster like Scarlet and Violet again. We really need, we fucked up. We fucked up. We're sorry. And honestly, I think that is the best direction to go. And, you know, and for what it's worth, I'm happy they're keeping the open world. I'm happy they're keeping the foundation. I know I haven't played Scarlet and Violet at this point. At the time of this video, I haven't. But I do know a good chunk about it, and I know about the changes they made and the foundation it left. And I do like most of the ideas. It's just Scarlet and Violet's problem was that it was busted and broken. And yeah, I hear the game is fun in spite of how buggy it is, but the game never really got enough patches to fix the problems. And the Switch 2 version is better, question mark. But this actually seems like if Scarlet and Violet actually worked, but it also actually looks halfway presentable. You know, it doesn't seem like a fucking embarrassment. You know, it seems like what I was asking for in the previous recording during this video. Is just, they're putting pride into this new game. And, you know, that's really all I want. I don't even care if they really play it safe with the story, honestly. You know, like, look, I love it when Pokemon tries to tell a story like Generation 7 and Generation 5, and I hear Scarlet and Violet does actually have fairly decent characters, so I'll go with that one as well. I do want them to still try, but even if they play it safe, it's whatever, because gameplay for Pokemon is what matters most. And admittedly, Generation 7, while I do love Generation 7's story, the hand-holding of that game is kryptonite, holy shit. And yeah, we're not gonna have all of the Pokemon, I'm just gonna nip that in the butt right now, but this actually seems like we're getting higher quality models, higher quality animations, mostly, and a really nice art style that makes the world look good. Now, sure, I don't think it'll be the best looking game on Switch 2. I honestly still think it doesn't. But art direction can do a lot for a game to make it look good. Like Breath of the Wild is a good example. Breath of the Wild really is not that graphically impressive, but the art direction makes it look like a painting, like a work of art. And you can appreciate the beauty of the game just because of its art style. So, you know, and that's kind of what I wanted for Pokemon, you know? I don't need the most advanced graphics, but, you know, give the game some level of, you know, give it some kind of art style, you know? Or you know, give it something, you know? Spice up the graphics. Make the game not look so Play-Doh-y, you know? I don't know. And this seems like they're doing that. It seems like they're really putting their all into it and apologizing for Scarlet and Violet. And you know what? I think that's what really matters most. I am probably still not going to buy a Switch 2 for it because, I mean, the Switch 2, I didn't really mind the price of the console. I said this in my previous Switch video, my Switch rant. If you want to check it out, go ahead. Warning, it is very angry, so, you know, if you're not into negative content, I apologize, but it is a rant. But just to recap what I said, the Switch 2's console price was not really that big of a deal for me. It was the fact that they were charging $80 for their games, and $70, but that's a problem with the industry, not so much just with Nintendo. I knew they would probably raise the price of games to $70, because of course they fucking will, but now they're going to like $80, and the precedent it sets was really, really bad. People still bought it, so at the end of the day, whatever. I didn't buy it, and I'm still not going to buy it, but I'm probably not going to get a Switch 2 anytime soon. If I ever get a Switch 2, I will want to get it when it's like really cheap, and I can find it for cheap, which I know is probably impossible at this point. But still, I'm waiting for a Switch 2, like, it's not even on my radar at this point. I'm probably still not going to get a Switch 2. And, you know, Pokemon, while I do think this new game, this new set of games looks really good, it's not, I'm still kind of cautious because Pokemon has burned me before, and let's be frank here, their output recently hasn't been the best. I'm rooting for this game, I really am, but it could still fail. But I want to be optimistic and say it won't. I think that this new set of games looks really solid. Oh, something I forgot to mention. Pokemon Winds and Water are actually not coming out until 2027. Yeah, I know. They're actually, like, I know there's gonna be the mega, you know, DLC, Mega Dimension stuff for ZA, and, you know, that's fine. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But, like, they're actually taking another full year to make Gen 10. I'm surprised I forgot to mention that in the original recording. I'm shocked. Like, this is Pokemon, and they're actually getting a delay. That, you know what? That's probably the most miraculous thing out of this entire Presents, Direct, whatever, is that they actually got another year to work on Gen 10. That is amazing. That was my phone. That is amazing, though. I really hope that is just the standard from now on. I hope they take more time to polish up the games. Yeah, they're actually taking another year to develop the titles, and I could not be happier about that. You know, we don't need a Pokemon game every single goddamn year, you know? Just having a year off, or a year with no game, or even just a year with DLC is perfectly fine, you know? We don't need a new game every year, you know? Like, take your time, you know? I am so happy that they're actually willing to kind of push things back a bit for the sake of just not having another Scarlet and Violet. I genuinely, this to me is really big proof that Scarlet and Violet and the people who complained about it did make an impact. Scarlet and Violet released in a very, very awful state, and it was unacceptable. And it seems like they got that message. And if that's true, and that this is why we're not getting the game until 2027, that is great, and I am happy, and that is the honestly, high point of the entire Presents right there. I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually, like, really happy it's not coming out until next year, because it means that they're going to put more time to make the game as good as it can be. And I'm sure, you know, there might be some 12-year-olds who complain, but they don't matter. At least to me. I hope there's no complaints about that. I really hope. It's what a lot of people have been asking for, but who knows with people at this point. Anyway, yeah. Gen 10 looks really good. I think it looks good. I am hoping that the game turns out great. I'm probably not going to play it anytime soon because I don't really want to buy a Switch 2. But hey, at least whenever I do get a Switch 2, if I ever get a Switch 2, I don't even know if I'm going to get a Switch 2, at least I know that there's a possibility that a decent Pokemon game is waiting for me when I possibly maybe get a Switch 2, if I get a Switch 2, because I'm still on the fence about it, and I probably will be for a good chunk of time. Who knows? I can probably maybe find one at Costco. My friend actually found one for fairly cheap. He found one for a decent deal, so maybe I'll be lucky as well. Maybe he can help me out if I feel like I want to get one for whatever reason. I still probably won't, though. Just for the principle of the thing. I can be a petty shit when I want to be. Anyway, that's all for me. I am Lokai, signing out. I am gonna get a bottle of water.